The California Zephyr. Join us as we spend 25 hours on one of America's most iconic train routes, trying out Amtrak's old, though freshly renovated, roomettes. After a quick flight, my friend Will and I find ourselves in Chicago's amazing Union Station, about to take this iconic Amtrak route. Passengers traveling in sleeper cars have access to the Metropolitan Lounge here, which we'll check out in just a second. One of my favorite perks of lounge access is that you can actually leave bags in this storage room for free while you explore the city. It's a really nice perk when you have a long connection. We'd arrived quite early, so we left our bags here and spent some time enjoying this breezy August day. But this isn't a video about Chicago, so let's get back to that lounge. This is definitely on the nicer side of Amtrak lounges. It features plentiful seating and, of course, plenty of train-themed decor. Although the lounge doesn't offer full meals, there's a variety of drinks and snacks available. And I didn't use it on this specific trip, but showers are also offered. All around, this lounge is a really pleasant place to wait, but I'd definitely recommend eating beforehand since no real meals are available here. Soon enough, our train was called, so we headed out. As we head to our platform to board the train, we have to give a shout out to Chicago's Union Station. While many big cities have miserable Amtrak stations, Chicago is anything but that. The Grand Hall is full of amazing architecture, and it does a great job of preserving that nostalgia associated with train travel. The boarding area isn't nearly as impressive, though it's finally undergoing some major renovations, so I'm really excited to see how that all turns out. After navigating through a maze of people and construction, we hopped on our train. Amtrak uses these two-floor Superliner cars on routes west of Chicago, making the experience quite different from the Viewliners used east to destinations like New York, Boston, and DC. We were fortunate enough to be assigned a room on the second floor, which we soon found with the guidance of our Amtrak attendant. We'll do an in-depth tour of this room once we've had some time to explore it, but for now, here's a quick glance at our temporary home on the rails. Roomettes are fairly small, so these baggage racks on the lower level were much appreciated. Note that although these Superliner cars can be decades old, these rooms have gotten new interiors in the last few years, all as part of Amtrak's long-distance service improvements. The rooms include a closet and come with coat hangers, some toiletries, pillows, and water bottles. At 2:14 Chicago time, we pulled out of Union Station, heading into the clear Chicago daylight.
Osceola, Creston, Omaha, Lincoln, Hastings, Holdridge, McCook, Fort Morgan, Denver, Fraser, Winter Park, Granby, Glenwood Springs, Grand Junction,
As we head out of the city and into seemingly endless suburbs, let's preview our route. We'll start by heading southwest through Illinois, eating dinner right as we cross into Iowa. The sun will set and we'll pass through the rest of Iowa and most of Nebraska through the night. We'll wake up in time for breakfast before crossing into Colorado, and after lunch, we'll get off in Glenwood Springs. About half an hour into the trip, we pulled into our first stop. Some 40 minutes later, we had our first delay of the trip.
Once it does, we will then proceed. We do apologize for inconvenience.
Somewhere in the distant suburbs, right next to a golf course, we stopped for about 10 minutes to wait for a freight train to pull aside. Amtrak doesn't own most of the track it uses on these long-distance routes, so it's quite common to stop like this and wait for track to open up. Thankfully, this wasn't too long a delay, and we continued into the countryside. After passing through several small towns, including a stop in Princeton, Illinois, we reached our first fresh air break, Galesburg. Amtrak usually schedules these longer stops, sometimes referred to as smoke breaks, for passengers to get out of the train for 10 to 15 minutes a few times a day. For us, this didn't just mean a chance to stretch our legs a bit, but also to take a look at this huge train. I've taken several other long-distance Amtrak trips, and it seems like the Zephyr is one of the physically biggest trains that Amtrak operates. This train consisted of 2 locomotives, a baggage car, 3 sleeper cars, a dining car, a sightseer car, and 2 coach cars. One of the most important things to know about this route is that it includes Amtrak's traditional dining. Most long-distance routes out east feature prepackaged meals that are heated up for sleeper car passengers, something like a fancier version of airplane food. I previously featured these meals in my Cardinal review. Most routes out west, as well as the new Floridian, include traditional dining, which means a much better, freshly prepared meal served in a special dining car. The two dining types are miles apart, so it's definitely something worth considering when looking at booking a sleeper car. Menus are occasionally updated, so I'll leave a link to the Amtrak menus website in the description below. All meals are included for sleeper car passengers, though coach passengers can also come here and buy a meal subject to availability. If you're paying, dinner is $45. At the table waiting for us was a warm bun as well as our utensils and plastic plates. I tried out the pearl tempura shrimp appetizer, which came with some sauce. This wasn't very substantial and really felt like a quick microwavable serving, so I'd probably recommend the mixed green salad. Nothing extraordinary there, but it's just a solid salad. Dinner also includes a complimentary drink for each traveler. As our entree, Will and I both got Amtrak's signature flat iron steak. I'm not sure if this is true, but I've heard some claim that the steak is the only dinner entree that is freshly cooked and not microwaved, so going with the steak might have been the safest bet. Sure enough, the steak came just as ordered and tasted great. It came with mashed potatoes, mixed vegetables, and a port wine sauce. As we ate, we rolled across the Mississippi River, marking our first new state, Iowa. We made a quick stop in Burlington, a station with a platform that's seen better days, and continued on. By the way, if you're traveling by yourself or with just one other person, as we were, then you'll get randomly seated with others. For dessert, we tried both options, the chocolate spoon cake and the white chocolate blueberry cobbler cheesecake. Again, these tasted great, though I have to say that just one of these is definitely enough sugar for two people. The chocolate cake in particular was super rich. Despite how good the meal was, I think that the $45 dinner offer for coach passengers is the least compelling of the three. Stay tuned for what breakfast and lunch look like, and to see why I think those are better bang for your buck. Regardless, for us privileged sleeper car passengers, it's a great meal included in the fare. As we rode on through Iowa, Will and I decided to check out the observation car. This is available for passengers in all classes, and it's just as cool as it looks. This car really fills up as you pass through the more scenic portions of the route, but it was also just a pleasant place to watch the sun begin to set over the Iowa cornfields. We had another extended stop in Ottumwa, Iowa, a stop where much of the train staff swaps, giving us a quick chance to explore the station. It's always great to see these improvements that Amtrak's making. Even just a quick renovation to make a new platform can make a stop look much nicer, and they're on a mission to make all of their stations ADA compliant within the next couple of years. Once we were back on board, we decided it was time for a room tour. I want to apologize in advance for the occasional background sounds and shaky videos. It's tough to get good, steady footage on a moving train.
Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Will.
Let me show you all the features of the renovated Superliner 1 car. Let's start with the button panels. All these buttons are touch buttons. Each of them have their own reading light, adjustable reading light for the seat. At the bottom is the top, which is the attendant call button, and the bottom here, which control sort of the main room lights. Now, neither of these features work on our car, so there's no point really in showing them off, but they're there for most of the cars, presumably. On the other side here, same reading light. Below it, we've got a temperature dial for the vent in the car, and we've got our one outlet in the car below that. Now, I mentioned the vent. Let's take a look at the vent. It's right up here in front of the door. There is a label that points out that the vent's openness can be controlled by a lever labeled air control. I'm assuming this is the lever. We don't see any other, and so this here controls the flow of the vent. Also on the ceiling is the reading light for the bed up here when it's folded down. This is the upstairs reading light. Some other features of the car. There are two coat hooks in this corner. The car came with hangers, but for us right now, both of these hangers are in this thin but functional closet. It's got a thin bar, both of these hangers. The towels are stored up here. The bed up here, as is normal for the Amtrak sleepers, but the bed folds down or pulls down or whatever. In this case, it folds down. And this bunk here has got its own little restraining strap here, which you can use to hook up to these little latches up here.
The audio in this clip is terrible because of things rattling in the background, but I'm just emphasizing how narrow these rooms are.
Another feature of the car, the door. The door closes as most sliding doors do. You can bring it shut here. It's got a latch, which closes over this peg. And this little metal bit here keeps the latch from being opened unless you push it to the side, and then the latch can open.
It's kind of tough to record with that light, but we also have some curtains to the right of that, which throughout the room there's these little Velcro strips, so you can stick them there. Gives you some privacy. I do want to point out, this lock had not fully worked the last time that we took an Amtrak Roomette, so this one is much more impressive. However, it's really not soundproof. There's many inches down here where you could sneak your hand in and noise and whatever gets right through it. So this is really just to keep people out of the room, not noise, not anything else. It's pretty good. We continued through Iowa, occasionally catching glimpses of small towns. As we began to wind down, we started to realize quite how much rattling and noise there is on the train. Some of it is unavoidable train noise, but a lot of it comes from random things within the roomettes, like coat hangers, loose doors, etc. If you're a light sleeper, these noises will probably keep you up. We're in Omaha, Nebraska. This is our last fresh air break before bed, so we're going to check this out for a brief minute, then go back inside, get changed, try out the bed. It's always quite sad to see these grand buildings that used to be the local stations right next to a dingy Amtrak that replaced it. Alright, it's about 12:30. We're somewhere between Omaha, Nebraska and Lincoln, Nebraska. Rails are pretty rocky, but bed's comfortable. And calling it a night. We'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning. It's about 6 a.m. Mountain Time. We've already passed through all of the state of Nebraska, so right now in the plains of Colorado, just a couple hours out from Denver. So gonna go up, get some breakfast, take a look at the sunrise. Bed was all right. The rocking was pleasant, but the mattress pad that you get, it's pretty stiff, so not the best bed, but it's all right. At around 7:15 a.m., we headed to the dining car for breakfast, which started off with some much-needed coffee. Will got the railroad French toast, and I tried the scrambled eggs. All breakfast options are served with your choice of bacon or sausage, hence our sides. The food wasn't anything spectacular, but it was pretty good. Coach passengers can buy breakfast for just $20, and while a simple breakfast like this may not seem worth $20 to everybody, I'd argue that it's pretty well priced. For one, you're getting this meal while on a train in a cool dining car environment, and two, the alternative is some other Amtrak buy-on-board snack that's definitely nowhere near as good. The upgrade is worth it. A bit later, I swung by the bathroom to brush my teeth. I was happy to find that it was pretty clean. I also checked out the showers available to Roomette passengers. I didn't leave myself enough time to actually shower on this trip, though it wouldn't have been my first time doing it if I had. Compared to my prior experience, however, I found this shower to be in much better shape, complete with plenty of amenities. About an hour after eating, we backed into Denver's Union Station. Stops like Denver are the next step above fresh air breaks. While those might give you 10 to 15 minutes to stretch your legs, Amtrak also adds in stops like these so they can have time to refuel the train, clean it, pad for delays, etc. We're in Denver, just outside of Union Station. The train stops here for just under an hour, so kind of give us free range to walk around. We're going to explore the surrounding areas, but just a quick fresh air break, or rather a long fresh air break. After getting some snacks from a nearby grocery store, we headed back on board. While stopped, we also got a chance to briefly look at the larger bedrooms available on Amtrak, as well as the coach cars. Filmed here is an Amtrak bedroom which features more space and a private shower. And here's a look at one of the coach cars. When Will and I took this in coach just a few days later, we found these seats to be really nice. The recline and legroom on them is crazy impressive. As we continue on through the train, we pass through the observation car before reaching this dining area. Next to this dining area is what I alluded to at breakfast, which is the Zephyr's particularly large cafe car. It has snacks that passengers in any class can buy whenever. At 8:56 a.m., we left Denver and began to head towards the Rocky Mountains. To get up this steep incline, the railroad follows a unique route, taking numerous twists and turns. The views that follow speak for themselves, and just go to show how unique of a view you get traveling by rail. Railroads often take their own path that doesn't necessarily follow nearby highways, which means that you aren't always just seeing billboards, rest stops, and other things that try to cater to travelers. Instead, you just get pure scenery. There's a kid here at Fraser, Colorado, who stands out with a bunch of snacks and sells them to all the passerbys on the train. Amazing entrepreneurial spirit. I will point out, it gets very hot in here without the door open. So we ended up, for much of the ride, leaving the curtain over, but the door's still open. So it's really tough for soundproofing, but it gets really unbearably hot without that. Some 2 hours into our tour of the Rocky Mountains, it was our turn for lunch. It was interesting to note that, unlike dinner, lunch was instead served with plastic silverware, though an attempt to try to look more classy with this fake silver was made. Conveniently, many of the most amazing views of our trip came as we waited for our food. Will and I both got the cheeseburger this time, which was really good. The side being just chips was a bit underwhelming, but the burger itself definitely made up for any shortcomings. Also, an option for dessert was a Frank and Louis butter cake. If you've seen my review of the Cardinal, you'll know that I absolutely love these things.
This stuff is fire.
Yeah, they're awesome. And despite truly horrifying nutrition facts, these taste ridiculously good for a prepackaged cake. So I was quite happy to see that these are still part of Amtrak's traditional dining experience. I was still a bit hungry, and our attendant was kind enough to let me also try the grilled cheese sandwich. The sandwich was super heavy on the ham, but it was nonetheless appreciated. Coach passengers can pay $25 for lunch, which is similarly reasonable to breakfast. As we get closer to the end of our Roomette trip, let's talk about price. We booked this trip with 40,350 Amtrak points. Given that Amtrak points are generally worth about 2.5 cents each, at least as of the recording of this video, that comes out to about $1,009. Accordingly, a similar ticket currently costs about $1,070. Note that that's for 2 people. If you wanted to go all the way to California in one go, that'd be more like $1,400. One downside of this specific route is the lack of Wi-Fi. Most of Amtrak's routes advertise free, albeit spotty Wi-Fi. This route, on the other hand, just doesn't have any at all, so be ready to rely entirely on spotty cell phone data. If you have the points or money available, I'd say that this is an experience definitely worth having at some point. If we'd had the points, we'd honestly have probably gone all the way through to California. The additional cost of extending that trip isn't that much, and this trip honestly went by really quickly. Finally, at 2:30 p.m., we rolled into Glenwood Springs, our final destination.
For inconvenience, cafe and lounge car are open and serving, located towards the middle of the car.
Yeah, okay, nerd.